Ready, Johnny?
Yep.
Okay. We'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 8th, 2021 to order. Mr. Hinkle, are you on Zoom? Commissioner Hinkle, are you on Zoom?
See a David up there with his hand raised.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You rise and join us in prayer and the pledge of allegiance.
Most gracious and merciful Heavenly Father, we come to you, Lord, praising your name, thanking you for this day. We ask for a hedge of protection around all of us as we make our way home after the meeting. We pray that you can touch the hearts and minds of those leadership, that they can make the right decisions, the right time, the right place for everyone. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Laura is stuck in traffic. Where she is on. By any chance, Laura, are you on? That's enough. Okay, number one, anybody signed up publicly? No? Okay, no one for number one, so we will move to number two, consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Motion's been made to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Payroll change notices, there are two.
Motion approved A and B.
Motion to approve number three, A and B. Any discussion?
Susan. Cannot hear what you all are approving on Zoom.
You can't hear what?
Can hear you talk, but cannot hear anybody else talking.
Okay, well, the motion was made by Commissioner Treecost to approve number three, A and B. Would you like
Thank you.
him to? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number four, minutes and or amended minutes of previous meetings.
Motion approved A and B.
Motion to approve A and B has been made by Commissioner Treecost. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Requisitions, purchase orders, invoices as shown on A, attached to the agenda.
Motion approved A.
Motion has been made to approve 5A by Commissioner Treecost. Any discussion?
Were we approving the invoices and the quotes?
Yes,
Some of these are quotes.
yes.
I'm curious why we're buying another snow plow for the county.
I believe we only have one. And that's not enough to get around to all the properties to get the parking lots cleaned off, is my understanding.
Who's this? Is this for our maintenance?
Yes, to my knowledge, that it is. I don't know whose other maintenance it would be.
And what's the Motorola Solutions for?
What number is it?
Another quote. 36851.
Looks like it's for radios. It's an OEM. Peggy, are you on the call? Peggy Bailey? Here comes Laura. Maybe she has the answer. Maybe Laura's here now.
Jim's on the phone. Maybe Jim can explain it.
Which one are we questioning?
We're questioning the quote 36851 Motorola Solutions for $33,000.
That is a radio for OEM, also for the new OEM vehicle that we'll be getting, as well as the 911 side. They do not have any handheld portables. They're all out of date. And so that is to replace those radios.
We're getting a new vehicle.
OEM is getting a vehicle, yes.
And we've approved that already.
Did, yes.
And you have an explanation for the snowplow?
I do. That'll go on to the truck that is kept at the garage to help keep up with the parking lots that we have around the county.
That's all my questions.
There's no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. It appears that we have no exoneration or corrective tickets or joint applications for number 6. We will move on to number 7. Consideration of approval of a project fund requisition regarding 2019 bonds, series 2019 bonds for Charles Pointe, 2015 A and B Development District number 3 at White Oaks, project number 2, and series 2008A Charles Pointe number 2 North Land Bay Improvements. And there are 4.
Motion approved A through D.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Treecost to approve number 7, A through D. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 8, acknowledge rate increase for enterprise sanitation. Is this just for information?
That is just for information, yes.
Any discussion on number 8? Anybody? Okay, hearing none, we will move to number 9. Review, discuss, consider monthly minutes, financial information for various boards, committees, and public service districts.
C.
Motion to approve A through C. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 10, review, discuss, consider resolution authorizing the application to apply for funds from the National Endowment for the Humanities Preservation Assistant Grant.
Yes, that's me. I'm working with.
Can you hear Gina, David?
Yes.
I'm working with Mike Spatafor and Connie Poe for the Clarksburg Historic Museum. We can request up to $10,000, and that would be to buy cases or anything to help the preservation of their artifacts and to better improve their museum. And there is no match.
Good.
Motion approved and move forward.
Motion to approve and move forward has been made by Commissioner Treecost. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 11, review, discuss, consider a request to travel for Melissa Owens, Community Corrections Day Report, Doddridge County Circuit Court. That's where she's going.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve number 11 has been made by Commissioner Treecost. Any further discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carried. Number 12, review, discuss, consider resolution authorizing the application of the fiscal year 2021 EDA American Rescue Plan Act Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation Funds.
That's me as well. This is a grant that is a 20% match. We can ask up to $10 million, which we're going to apply for as much as we can or as much as the commission will allow us to. And this will be to do as much completing of the rail trail to connect the Northview to the Wilsonburg and the Northern Trail area. That includes building bridges and possibly a ramp or a dock on the river. So we're meeting with Thrasher today. We're going to go over all the maps and all the information, the budgets and everything. And we're just going to ask for the moon and hope for the stars, you know, so just to try to get as much of it done as we can and as much as you all will allow.
And Michelle, thank you. I've been waiting a long time for that agenda item. Thank you, but it means the world to me.
It's going to be, I mean, it's due next month, so it's going to be a lot of work to get together in a hurry, but we'll do it.
Thank you.
Motion approved, move forward.
Motion has been made to approve number 12 and move forward by Commissioner Treecost. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carried.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Can it be used for acquisition as well? It's just something to look at and for you and Charlotte to discuss. And specifically, if there are any restrictions.
I
on-
believe it can.
Okay, well, if there are any restrictions as to the steps that need to be taken in terms of use for acquisition, please let me know.
Okay, well, yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you, Trey.
Yes.
Number 13, review, discuss, consider applying, receiving fiscal year 2019 Emergency Management Performance Grant Award in the amount of $56,000. Who's up on that?
This is the EMPG, the Emergency Management Performance Grant. They're a little behind on the year, so this one is reaching back to 2019. The total award is $56,000. So this is just authorizing us to go ahead and apply and receive that total grant award.
I'm ready. Motion approved and move forward.
Motion to approve and move forward with number 13. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Number 14, well, motion carried. Oh, any opposed?
Can't see it. Christmas decorations.
Okay, motion carried. Number 14, review, discuss, consider applying, receiving fiscal year 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant COVID-19 Supplement Award in the amount of $12,500.
So the full grant for 2020 for EMPG has not come out yet, but they are authorizing and allowing us to apply for a supplemental grant for EMPG. And that is what the 12,500 is for year 2020.
Another just big win. Motion approved and move forward.
Motion has been made to approve and move forward by Commissioner Treecost on number 14. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 15, review, discuss, consider resolution of Harrison County approving the renewal of the cable television franchise.
Motion approved.
Motion's been made to approve. Any discussion? What is it?
This is the cable franchise that Michelle and Trey has been working with them to try to get ironed out.
Okay.
Explain more detail.
We just updated some of the insurance language. They also wanted a very indefinite continued relationship with the county. We didn't feel that was appropriate, so that future commissions would have the right to revisit the relationship if they wanted to. So we changed that language in the franchise agreement as well, so it doesn't just renew to infinity. That's pretty much it, though.
Thank you. Sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I don't know if I said Commissioner Treecost made a motion to approve and move forward. Motion carried. Review, discuss, consider updates, recommendation, and options regarding redistricting. I don't know who wants to speak, but from looking at everything, I think it's imperative that we move forward with the magisterial move due to the filing period in January, the beginning of January. And we cannot really, I don't think, do a whole lot with the precincts because of the 90 days within an election.
So the state by Senate Bill 3034, which was effective in October 20th, 2021, the state mandated that the county commission of the county in which a precinct is located shall, prior to January 22nd, 2022, alter the boundary lines of its election precincts. So the mandate to the county is prior to January 22nd, 2022 for precincts. The Secretary of State has it backwards, what they told us. So that's for precincts. We need to get that started, but precinct changes cannot be effective in a shorter period than 90 days. So those changes would not take effect until the primary.
But we can go ahead and do it and make them effective. Is that
And for the next, for the May election, because they have to be 90 days out.
Right.
Yes.
okay?
The magisterial district boundary changes, there's actually not a requirement in Senate Bill 3034, but it seems to indicate that they should also be done before January 22nd, 2022, based upon the legislation. And I provided that to Laura this morning for distribution to everybody so y'all could see it. But that's where we are. It's kind of a truncated timeline, but it's not something we created. We're going to be stuck with it. So if we get the notices out today, we would have time to set, and we would need to set a hearing a hearing in January before the 22nd, more than 30 days out from today.
And that's for the precincts, right?
We could do it for both of them, for precinct and magisterial at that time.
But we have to get the magisterials done before filing, is my concern, because of the county commission races and the Board of Education races.
What
John, how
day-
much did you change the magisterial district lines?
From what I understand, we only had to move one line, but that one line kind of stretched across 3 precincts. And what we did was we adjusted it based on the new House districts. It looks like it would affect the northern district the most. And we have that stuff on the map too here. We could kind of show you the comparo if we can share with Mike Pizzino.
What's the population for each one, John?
I don't know that we have a firm number on that. I know voting populations, but as far as census populations, I believe that's not as easy of an answer based on the blocks and how they overlay with our lines.
Are these districts supposed to be on voting or census?
The magisterial are on census, right? And I believe currently we just basically got lucky there. I believe the recommendation is maybe around a deviation of 5%, and we're well under 5% without touching anything.
We had the numbers, didn't you have the numbers last week?
I do voter wise, but I don't know that I have
I thought we had
census wise. So yeah, so we do have to adjust the one line. I'm still not positive about how many that magisterial will affect. We're doing our best, and the only reason we're adjusting that particular line, Commissioner Henkel, is because of the House line and it crosses and we just don't have a choice, so that's why. Otherwise, we're trying to not touch any of them anywhere, but we don't have a choice but to adjust the one.
Well, the issue with the magisterial changes under 722, we have to give notice 30 days out.
Let's make a motion to give notice for A and B moving forward.
But how does that align with the candidacy, with the filing date?
It starts at 10th, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
and now the information you gave, and maybe I'm wrong, and you're the expert. It said, what I read, you have to post it in front of the courthouse for the magisterials and somewhere in each district.
Correct.
that's correct. And
But you
that's
also have to do a class 2 for 30,
an interesting question. Under 122B within Senate Bill 3034, there is a process for a publication under historic 722, which is the language which governs historic magisterial changes. There is not. So my recommendation was to do both because the statutes conflict between 722 and Senate Bill 3034, effective October 20th, 2021. So just to be careful. And I envision John, us having a map that showed before, then after the change for each one, before and after.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, where can I see where the original magistrate districts are? I have that
On
map
the-
from Mike, but I don't see the original ones.
They would be, if you're on that redistricting site, and you look where it says layers, where it has magisterial districts and then
Yeah.
original magisterial districts,
Yeah,
make sure that up check is checked for magisterial. And then you can toggle on and off the third one down that says original magisterial. So when you see the colors, the blue, the pink, the purple, the yellow, the green, those are our current lines. When you toggle on and off that third box, you'll see the purple lines. That's what was affected. So that top purple line, that's the magisterial line that we were forced to adjust.
And this is going to have to be posted tomorrow to meet the 30 days at some public place in each district on the front door of the courthouse.
That's easy enough, I think. We can find a prominent polling location within each district and do it that way.
John, how long is it gonna, would it take you to get the census population for these?
That would probably be a better question for Mike Pizzino. He is on the call.
Mike? Mike Pizzino.
Can you hear me? Oh, wow.
Mike?
I hear it in the background. Where you at?
Hey, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Get of you, but that's all right.
How about now?
That's good. Barely, but
Is there an echo still?
we still got.
Try this again. Can you hear me now?
Hey, Mike, let me ask you the question. Do you had the census population for the magisterial districts when you were here? Was it week before last or last week? Right?
Yes and no. My numbers were based on census blocks. Our districts were not.
Would they be off? How would that affect the population in those districts?
Hey, Mike, let's try it this way without an echo. Maybe it'll be a little better. Did you hear Susan's last question? Can you hear me?
I can now. I had my headphones on. I had to switch over here.
Okay, did you hear Susan's last question?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you hear Susan's last question?
No. And we got your own liver here, Laura. This is like a gazebo over at Elkin.
Oh, I'm trying to get your son, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead.
Susan first.
No problem.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too. That's why you label them differently.
January 8th and 9th are Saturday and Sunday.
So they'll be. But I wonder if it's calendar days or.
Well, that's why I raised the.
Probably not much consideration that they were 2 months late getting us the stuff. So we question right now. Can't help myself.
We'll try this again.
Understand.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I needed my phone, I needed my,
Ah,
I
okay.
did hear Susan's question.
Yes, you are on speaker.
Okay. So our magisterial district, current magisterial districts do not follow census blocks. Our proposed magisterial districts do not follow census blocks. Our precincts don't follow census blocks. So there's no way to get an exact number of population, voter or just census. We can get a pretty good number on voter population by geocoding the addresses. And knowing how many people in the block. But because our magisterials do not follow census blocks, we can't get an exact number.
But can you tell by the census block numbers any way that they are close in population?
Repeat that question, please.
Can you tell any way if by the census block population, I forget my question, if you can tell that they are close in population?
I can't get an exact number, but I can get it close.
If we can't get that, how are we supposed to make sure that our magisterial districts are close in population?
Only way to get it exact is to make a major change in magisterial districts. If I could share my screen, I can show you. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Are we looking at the map with magisterial districts on it, purple lines and the colors?
Yep. And the new ones, I think that's a new one.
Yeah, okay, okay. All right, so this is the Esri redistricting software. These are our current precincts. Let me, yeah, okay. So you see this line right here between 92 and 95?
Yes.
Going down. That line is the voter precinct. Same area, you see there's no line there. This census block, our precinct divided that census block. So our magisterial districts, and I don't have them on this map, they don't follow these census blocks either. There was a proposed plan this map that does follow the census blocks. It is close to, but not exactly numbers, and I moved these, made them closer, but these are current numbers, under this column here, under total. With the 2020 census data. If we go with these lines, these purple lines, they do not follow census blocks, they follow precincts, which also do not follow census blocks. So this map is less changed, but I'm sure on exact numbers.
Do we know if we're in the middle of nowhere in those three places, that there's not much population?
That's why I was in the meeting last week, I said, you're
Didn't you?
not gonna be
That's,
moving those numbers. to
okay, that's
300.
what I thought. Now it's come, that's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was why, because I knew at that point that I can't give you an exact number, but I don't feel like the changes are so far out that it's gonna blow us out of our 5% or even 10% deviation.
Okay. I knew I saw numbers somewhere. That's why I was.
Yeah, it was funny. Well, I think that these are the numbers I showed you. And if anybody wants to take a picture of that, or I can print it for report and send it to you guys. But those totals are close. Very close.
John, Mike, what, I mean, the magisterial districts versus the voting precincts. Why are you trying to match those lines up? Is that required?
No, not at all. Not trying to match them up. I'm trying to match anything with census blocks.
Why does magisterial follow precinct? Wasn't that the question?
Yeah, because your precincts can't cross magisterial lines.
Right, right, that's correct.
I mean, I guess I'm looking at like over there around Arlington, Glen Falls area that was not part of the district that it's in now. And we've made this wild line to drag it in, where before it wasn't part of it, all the way up almost to Hepzibah. That's the biggest one you've changed, isn't it? And the Summit Park, Despard area.
Yeah, and I think that was a change based on the house line. That house line kind of cut Summit Park.
And those are two big blocks that you've moved that I see.
Yeah, and the Summit Park one, like I said, I think maybe is it the gray line, Mike? Is that the house line?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that gray line on there, it kind of cut through Summit Park, I believe was 66. So yeah, that was one of the ones that we were going to split from a 66 and a 66A because it is Summit Park. There's nowhere really very convenient. So that was one of the ones we were forced to split because of the house line.
And over around Glen Falls, same thing, Hepzibah area, Dalmont.
And those are, yeah, same thing, adjusting the magisterial to follow the new house line. And also coordinating with the current precincts that, you're adjusting that because you can't cross those lines either. So that's the fun part is you have a few different lines you have to make sure and you have to make them all happy together.
So the motion on the floor then is the motion to move forward the notice of intent on A and B.
I believe so. Okay, the motion has been made to move forward with number 16A and B. Any further discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I don't feel as we've had enough discussion and the information supplied at this point to make that motion. I would prefer that we were under 10%.
I
On
believe
the,
we are. Yeah, we are well under 10%. Now, I think the maybe the slight unknown is, once we move this line, what will that do? But I think Mike sounds fairly confident that it definitely won't put us outside 10%, even with this line move.
well, the previous line moves that he showed me, there's no way to make them work with the precincts. Is that right, Mike?
I'm sorry. Previous, what was the previous?
The one that you showed that was like your 1 or 2. Where you had the lines drawn different and you state that one.
This map?
Yeah. That's where you stayed fairly close with your,
Yeah, they are fairly close. And I've got exact numbers on this. We would have to go change. Well, we wouldn't have to change precinct, so I'd have to look at it, make sure that the house lines are all good with it.
it seems a lot cleaner than what I'm looking at up here, but
This map follows census blocks exactly. And our deviation here is, you can see here.
right.
Okay.
Well, I think I would have liked to spent more time with John and Mike on this before we vote on it, but that's up to you two. I think we're rushing it.
I don't think they have much choice.
With the precinct, the state has ordered, so to speak, that we get it done before January 22nd, 2022. And Susan makes a valid point concerning the practical application of the magisterial districts. I can't tell you the timing of the legislation or the information really served anyone's purpose here, Commissioner Hinkle. It kind of caught us. It caught everybody, that's correct, in a tight timeline to turn this stuff around based upon the legislature's mandate with respect to the precincts.
When did the legislature pass this?
October, it's effective October 20th, 2021, Senate Bill 3034.
They were late getting the information to us to begin to work on this is the problem. Right? Am I speaking?
You're
out of-
correct. They didn't need to meet any of their deadlines, but we need to meet ours.
Yeah. They're ours now.
They are.
They made it ours.
The census data was supposed to come, I believe, in 2020. They kicked it a year due to the pandemic. And then I think after the year, they missed that 12-month extension by a couple of months. And here we are.
And so are 54 other counties in this mess. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Please note the opposition. Okay, so the motion carried. Okay, number 17, administrators report.
I believe Winterfest in Clarksburg went off very well last weekend, along with other Christmas parades and events in the county. I'd like to thank Maintenance Department and Hazel and Jackie for decorating the courthouse so festive. They've done a great job this week. And the other things that I had on it, I'll add to next week since I was delayed due to the back roads. So I apologize.
Anything further on 17? Hearing none, do we want to wait for the 10:15, or does any commissioners have comments if they wish to speak
No.
about it this time?
Yeah, Susan, real quick, I'll just, Laura, I don't know whose idea it was to put the lights on top of the courthouse, but Winterfest people loved it.
Good.
And Gina and Michelle, what a great day. Thank you both for the effort. And I mean, you guys have the pencil to the paper right now. Thank you. That's all, Madam President.
Commissioner Hinkle, do you have anything?
Just have a question if we're doing anything, still having our regular meetings on the 22nd, 29th.
22nd is still scheduled, 29th is not scheduled. In the summer, the vote was to skip the 29th meeting unless something pressing comes up.
Thank you.
I have nothing. I have 4 minutes until the. Here.
Signatures?
Probably have your email. Will that work? Got me in there? Yes, ma'am.
I'll shoot you one of them.
Yep.
I'll go ahead and get signatures from him and we can leave and start a new tab. I'll explain to you about the chat. I sent people on the agenda that didn't get on the agenda. That is our litter control grant. Mhm. Yeah, they highlighted in science. Oh, you got one more. Yeah, just pull that paper clip off if you want. On the side. No, it's just a resolution. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll get your office copies.
That's our LWOP information for the grants. So we have to send those in. One goes to the super right.
Don't know that I've seen that.
Yeah, it's, yeah, since the last thing, all grants require it pretty much on the state level. So much.
Okay. 10:15. We have a hearing concerning Shirley Epling estate. Mr. McMahon? Who's that?
Where would you like us?
Why don't we put one lawyer here, one lawyer there, if that's okay? Kind of clients behind, maybe, that's fair.
That sounds like a phone or something. One lawyer here, one lawyer there.
Nobody wants to sit next to lawyers.
You got it.
You guys just.
I don't mind sitting beside you, Trey.
Okay. Petitioner,
Good morning.
good morning.
May it please the commission, Andy McMahon. I represent Mark and Kim George. I have Kim present with me here today. To start off, so you have an idea who we're talking about. This is Shirley Epling. This was her boyfriend at the time of her death. His name is Floyd George. Floyd is the father-in-law of Kim and the father of Mark. Shirley was really family to the Georges. Shirley had 7 siblings, all of whom lived out of state and predeceased her. And really the Georges became her family. At the time, just before her death, she became sick. And there were some expenses that Kim and Mark George covered. They covered her funeral bill. And, you know, if you've read my petition, I'll try not to bore you with all the details, but there's a little under $11,000 that they paid on behalf of Shirley Epling. And when she passed away, Ms. George, who sits behind me, lodged the will with the clerk and advised one of the nieces, whom she believed would be receiving the entire estate based on the way the will read. She advised that niece that that she passed away and that the will was lodged with the clerk, and also advised her of the debt that they paid, plus that there were some other bills out there. And nothing really happened at that point. So yeah, I guess they kind of waited around for somebody to open up an estate, thinking that it would happen, and it never did. And really where this comes to a head is when some neighbors advised that they now own the property, the real estate that Shirley and George lived in when Shirley passed away. So with a little looking in the clerk's records, we find that there was a disclaimer filed by the one niece who we believe would have received the entire estate, and that there were quitclaim deeds executed to the new owners for the real estate. At that point, it became clear, in order to get the estate administered and the debt paid, that we were going to have to take some action. So I filed a motion with you all asking that the sheriff be appointed to administer the estate. Our impression is that there will not be enough personal assets. We're aware that there's some household items that are there, and there is a bank account, we believe, at least there was when she passed away. It was with Chase Bank. It had about $6,500 in it at the time, we believe. And of course, the debts are greater than that. What the hospitals have done with the debts, we don't know. But the code specifically permits the real estate to be made subject to the claims. And that would require probably a lawsuit unless it could get resolved. And so I guess where we start here is getting the estate opened. And so that's really what we're trying to do here today with the petition and motion that I filed. I'm glad to give you more detail if you want it, but that's the upshot of what we're trying to do.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I represent the heirs of the estate at this point in time, and they object to the petition filed. What Mr. McMahon failed to tell you was that these people have been living in her house for the last 4 years, not paying any rent, letting the house deteriorate, selling off assets that belong to her, taking the catalytic converter off of the car that belonged to her, having the car driven away and given to somebody. And when asked what's going on, they said, well, we're going to give the money to our grandfather for the sale of these items. So it was after the house was deteriorating, becoming an eyesore. People came to us to ask if they could buy the house, and I told them we had to take down all the errors. We did that, got them to do quitclaim deeds for the property. And then once they bought the property, they had the Floyds move out of the house, and that's what started it all. Because now they're not living rent-free in a house that they don't have to pay for, they don't have any insurance on, didn't have anything on in regard to it. So we believe they come in here with unclean hands asking for this court to open up the estate. I understand that it's probably the best thing to do is to open up the estate to get these issues resolved. But it also appears now that they knew about a bank account and didn't do anything for it for 3 years. They also know about bills that were coming in. Obviously, then they're opening up her mail too, as it was coming in. So how they could sit here and say, oh, we're due money for living in a house for 4 years rent-free, not doing anything in the house, stealing all the personal property that belonged to her, stealing the car that was titled in her name, and taking that money and converting it for their own use. They come in here with unclean hands, absolutely. And I believe some of those errors, I don't know how you do the Zoom thing. They were supposed to try and come in under Zoom programs here. I'm sorry, I could have said that first.
I believe I see one or two shaking.
Okay, so there's someone back behind me. Okay.
Can we identify all the errors here for the record, so we have a clear record?
My name is, excuse me, my name is Terry Kreiderman. I'm a niece of Aunt Shirley's, and I live in St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada.
Thank you.
My name is Emma Kennedy, and I'm a great niece of Shirley Epling, my mother, Rhonda Kennedy. Shirley was her aunt, and I'm calling in from Columbia, South Carolina.
Are there any others concerning the Epling estate on Zoom? Are there? Okay.
And I have Mr. and Mrs. Edwards who purchases the property here with him.
I wondered if I could give a response, if that was permissible.
I have no problem with it, but ask the lawyers involved.
I have no problem with it.
No issue.
My husband and I had made an appointment, or had gone down to see Aunt Shirley when she came out of River Oaks in January of 18. And up until about a month before, I didn't know that Aunt Shirley had fallen and all that she had succumbed to, and was literally brokenhearted when we saw her at her house. She had fallen and broken her arm. So my husband and I, because I was never able to get through, we got Floyd and Aunt Shirley new phones. I knew she couldn't use a walker. I got her a prong cane. I knew legally that because we couldn't stay longer than the weekend, I went through my sister Rhonda, that's Emma's mother, had called Floyd, and because my sister was the director of the health department in West Virginia, knew all the things that Aunt Shirley would be entitled for with Medicare or Medicaid, and things that he didn't need to pay for that could be paid for. And she offered her service on an ongoing basis. I had put our phone numbers on the fridge that both Aunt Shirley and Floyd were aware of. And we had actually got the power of attorney for health so that Floyd could act on her behalf for health decisions. And I made sure Floyd could hear me because I know that the deafness was an issue. He acknowledged he knew where the phone numbers were. I had asked Aunt Shirley if she had a will, and she did. She said it was upstairs. I did not look for that. But Floyd heard all of this conversation. I made sure he heard all of this conversation. I pleaded with Floyd to please call me and let me know if anything happened to her. I had called multiple times, as other family members had that year. Nobody answered. Nobody called back. I tried before I left because Floyd said his grandson Matthew lived around the corner and would help take her to appointments. I had Matthew's cell number and I had called him, and he never called me back the whole weekend I was there, nor in the days following. I had no communication the whole year. And then we found out about Aunt Shirley's death by a former ex-brother-in-law who saw it in the obituaries. I didn't even know my aunt was sick in hospital or in a long-term care. And then Kim George called my cousin Sharon Smith, who was the entitled heir because of the will, on December 21st to tell her about the death and to tell her that they wanted money for a funeral. We were devastated at what had taken place. Sharon had given up her disclaimer and notified at the time myself, my sister, a cousin in Ohio, and another cousin, because I didn't even know where my cousin Paul's girls were, saying that if we wanted the property, we could put in a claim for it. And all of us, I had been in the house. I saw the condition of the house, and all of us being out of state did not want to take over the property. So I may be in ignorance, but I thought because Floyd being a common law spouse, she had taken care of Floyd for years. And I could tell when they were together that he did care for her. But why he never called me is beyond me. That being said,
margarita flight.
That being said, I know that we all walked away. We didn't put any claims against the property at that time, thinking that Mr. George would have to move out because I didn't think he had legal rights to stay in a house, and that it would probably go for taxes and be posted, by the county clerk's office for any outstanding debts against the estate. Until I was contacted early in this year that a young family wanted it, and I helped find I gave the names that Mr. Kupik's office found them all, because in my heart's desire, I wanted a family to have that house that I remembered with Aunt Shirley and Uncle Orville there. So I just wanted to give you the family's perspective that attempts had been made, but because of me living in Canada, I couldn't be there to do more. And I was just so hurt that I didn't even know my aunt had died at the time. So that's all my comments that I'd like to make at this time.
Do you have anyone else, Mr.
No, ma'am.
I'd like to have a brief response there if I could. Ms. Kreiderman called my office, and so I was aware of that. I was aware of what she was telling me. What I think the commission should know is that Floyd suffers from dementia. And Kim and Mark would stop in and see to him as much as they could. It's now progressed to the point where he lives with them. So there may be a lot of unanswered questions about the calls and the calls back. I can't say much to that. I don't know. But what I do know is it does not involve Kim and Mark George, who stepped up, paid the funeral bill, paid her health expenses, and have incurred almost $11,000 in bills. The only way to properly address this is to open an estate. If they have some evidence they want to try to put on about Floyd living there, paying no rent and assets being gone, they can do that. I did advise Mr. Kupek that Kim and Mark did put some of the personal belongings in storage for the protection of the estate when an administrator or administratrix was appointed. And all that will be provided. And at that point, the administrator or the administratrix can take what evidence they want to take and treat the claim however they want to treat it. But I have absolute evidence of their payment of those expenses, and they're entitled to it. So, to me, the only proper thing to do here is to open the estate and let the process take place.
May I clarify? I never talked to Mr. McMahon before. I got the communication from him. It was another cousin that called his office.
Apologize, I'm grabbing my notes here. You're right, I apologize. It was Miss Eddings. Miss Eddings.
And I don't understand, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't understand why these expenses weren't after her death, why the Marks or the George family did not try to contact all the heirs and get the expenses there. I don't understand why it's almost 3 years later and who did what, when, and how. Like how do I know that? Anyway, I just wanted to clarify his statement that I had never spoken to him before.
I think they would argue that they did. They lodged the will with the clerk and advised Sharon Smith, who would have been the sole heir of the estate, of what was happening.
But there's no one still alive under the will to serve as executor, executrix.
That's right.
So
Under
did
the-
somebody serve under the will and that annex?
Well, the problem would be we have no one in Harrison County or even in the state of West Virginia that is in line to serve, even going the distance to the heirs. They're all scattered throughout the countryside. We certainly have the Georges, the Edwards, who would be willing to do that. But they have a vested interest in the property, and I don't know if that's proper to do. I could represent them and do that, but I can't, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I would not qualify myself because I think that would be a conflict of doing it. But if the one of the heirs would be willing to come forward. With all due respect to the young lady from Canada, I'm pretty sure we can't get a Canadian to come down and qualify, but I think we can do out-of-state ones.
Better, you can't, the law changed. There's some new legislation that was passed.
That says people from Canada can come down and do it?
Sure, it's out of state. You can do it. Well, Canada, I don't know about out of.
Yeah.
It physically would be almost impossible for me to take over that role. And all 9 of us that were found by Mr. Kupik in his office, none of us wanted the estate. We all gave up our rights to the inheritance of that property to the Edwards family. It's physically too hard for all of us to come back to West Virginia, particularly myself. I haven't been in the States at all because of COVID. I couldn't even go to my sister's funeral last year because of COVID.
I think they have certainly conveyed their right to the real estate. I don't think that they have transferred any interest they may have in the personal property, which isn't going to be great, but it's there. It's going to have to be administered.
Another question for us is to,
Whether or not to appoint the sheriff to get the estate process started.
And the code clearly provides for it.
I have a question. So the real estate has been sold
That's correct.
and you are in dispute over trying to reclaim the real estate.
Well,
I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
there's a provision in the code that says that if the personal assets are not sufficient to cover the debts of the estate, that the real property of the decedent may be made the subject of those debts. It would require the filing of an action in the circuit court, I believe, but that's really ultimately where this is heading if the personal assets are not sufficient. And I believe they probably are not.
And our position is that they're not, because they deteriorated them, used them, stole them, and converted the money to their own use.
But Commissioner Hinkle, to speak to your question, that's really not before the commission today. They're going to be fighting over bona fide purchaser for value, a number of items at the circuit court level. Our discussion today is limited to the sheriff and the opening of the estate.
Right.
Well, if I understand, as long as we give it to the sheriff, Mr. McMunn, your clients will just have to file claims to sheriff.
Yes, that's
or
what
if we don't, then you go to circuit court.
Hey, Kimmy.
I think you have to have an
Fantastic.
estate. I don't know. I can't sue an entity that doesn't exist. This would be the estate of Shirley Epling that owes this debt. And as of right now, there is no estate. So we have to have.
My question is, and if we don't give this to the sheriff, then this estate is
We woke up
considered
with snap.
I didn't get here till
defunct,
after 9:30.
Oh, really?
correct?
My road was covered and it looked icy. Mike even went ahead and plowed the driveway to get the.
Well, the
rocks, you know.
Saunders worker comes from like other side of
Oh.
Fairmont.
Ooh,
Somebody's talking
She
over.
said, hey, Saunders. So Saunders
they're trying
went and her. It's nice, it's rain.
Thank you, Don.
So David, your motion is to turn it over to the sheriff.
Patsy, I just have one last question. If Mr. McMunn could answer, is that if we don't turn this over to the sheriff and we do nothing today, then this estate basically dies and it'll come back for us at some point for us to say it was never closed and close it. Is that correct?
No, because there's not an, I'm sorry, Andy, you can.
She's correct. I think if you refuse to open it, I don't have the ability to file an action. I think what I would have to do is appeal this on up and do what I have to do in order to get the estate itself opened so that the sheriff can administer it and we can make our claim. I can't make a claim against something that doesn't exist right now. And
Right, I understand that. And Mr. Kupek, in the files that I have that I'm looking at, what were you going to Monongalia County for?
I have no idea what I have no idea. Something saying Montague County on it.
You filed a motion of a notice of conflict.
Oh, I had a
related to
conflict. That's
criminal
why,
trial.
yeah, I had a criminal trial up there. That's why it was up there.
Hearing day.
All right,
Yeah, yeah, I filed a motion to continue the hearing one time because I had a criminal trial up in Monty County, of which I didn't do very well, but that's another story. Sorry.
So the unpaid rent in the amount of approximately, I think we $700 a month for those 3 years, does it come into play here?
Let me respond to you. The answer to that question is basically what we have today is an issue of whether or not to open up an estate. Once that estate is opened up, then that issue becomes an issue, as does all the other issues that we raise becomes an issue. And if they appoint the sheriff, the reason we're here is because the sheriff needs to know about all these before he gets appointed so that he knows what he's taking on and what responsibilities he's going to have in regard to those issues.
I think what you have to understand too is any issue regarding rent or what you're talking about is a Floyd George issue, not a Kim and Mark George issue. Kim and Mark George are the people that stepped up and wrote the checks and paid for this care. So I don't think you're going to see one against the other. But what it does mean potentially is more claim against that real estate.
Oh, no, I think it means exactly the opposite. I think it means more claims against Mr. Floyd so that he's going to have to pay to the estate for the time that he did that. And whether or not Mark and whoever it is you represent are there or not, the claims of again for the estate have to all be pursued to try and get the money. So it won't be more money going out, it'll be more money coming in.
No issue with regard to that. I do believe it. Kim and Mark George's claim is what it is. And then, it needs to be addressed in the administration of this state the same way any other
But
claims.
the only thing the sheriff would do would open the estate and find the assets. And I mean, they're not gonna determine, well, who gets,
Well, I think if the sheriff is appointed and becomes the administrator of the estate, the sheriff's likely to be the one instituting the lawsuit regarding the real estate.
Yeah.
That's the sheriff's duty, is to administer that estate.
so you're not only wanting to file a claim, you're wanting the sheriff to file a suit.
I think he's going to have to
Okay.
fully administer this estate. Unless we can get this thing worked out somehow. I don't know.
I mean, that would be the thing to do. I mean, I wish we could send it to a fiduciary commissioner to settle. And I don't know, since there's not an estate, if that can be done. That's my question.
The estate has to be open, as I see it. They're gonna end up fighting in circuit court over their issues eventually, in my opinion, one way or the other. So, but there has to be an estate. An estate must be open. And the sheriff in this case seems like the only person, in my opinion, who is here and who can serve in that role.
So when the quick claim deeds were issued, there was nothing filed against the estate at that time, correct?
That's correct. No more discussion at this time.
Yeah, you all are fighting about the merits. The question today is limited. Is the sheriff gonna
The motion
serve?
before the commission is to appoint the sheriff. That's
Correct.
what's before the commission.
Call the question.
Well, we don't have a motion to call the question.
I'm sorry. Motion to send it to the sheriff.
Okay, the motion's been made to send to the sheriff. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm opposed. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed to that.
Last on the list.